Welcome back, it's me, Lou. I'm here for another action figure unboxing and review, and today we are going to look at an action figure that I'm really excited to check out. We have the Diamond Select Gotham Wrath of the Villains Mr. Freeze Deluxe action figure with base. Alright, this guy looks amazing. It looks incredibly detailed. I love the display base. His costume's awesome, and it's looking to be a wonderful action figure. Okay, so most of my content on my YouTube channel, especially with action figure reviews, revolves around Mcfarland toys and the DC Multiverse line of action figures. They've given us a large number of Batman figures, and also, some characters from his Rogue gallery. And one of the villains that I've been anticipating for a long time is Mr. Freeze. We have yet to get a Mr. Freeze from Mcfarland Toys. So in the meantime, I was just kind of hunting around and seeing if I could find a, like a substitute or a proxy until Mcfarland gives us an official DC Multiverse Mr. Freeze action figure. There's an upcoming wave where they're featuring characters from the video game Arkham City. And, if you've played the Arkham games, there's a really, really cool rendition of Mr. Freeze. And I'm keeping my fingers crossed that hopefully in the near future, Mcfarland tackles the video game design of Mr. Freeze. But until then, I have this guy right here. So this is a figure I actually forgot about. It was produced by Diamond Select right here. And this belonged to the Gotham Wrath of the Villains. So if you're a fan of the old Gotham TV show from some years back, you'll remember, I think Mr. Freeze debuted, I want to say, was it season 2, which was Wrath of the Villains. When he first debuted, he actually had two different costumes. He had the costume when he was first introduced. It's kind of like a cold suit, and it kind of had like a helmet. But then when he woke up, I think it was like he woke up in some sort of like, where was it? Some sort of like medical facility that was off-site. And I think Hugo Strange was with him. And then when he woke up, he was kind of like in his, full-on leveled up Mr. Freeze cold mode. And then he kind of like wore this suit much, throughout the series. It's slightly different than, the comic book suit and the suit we've seen in the cartoon because it's missing the dome. And in some ways, it even kind of like echoes, the Arnold Schwarzenegger Mr. Freeze suit from like the live action films, just because of the use of like neon lighting, especially like around the collar. But this is a great looking figure, and I want to see if this is something that'll fit into my Mcfarland line of DC figures. So let's get started. The box, if you've handled Marvel Select or Diamond Select figures before, the boxes are always gigantic. It's a giant plastic blister on a very large card. They're really great at showcasing the figure and all the accessories that come with it. Most of the Diamond Select and Marvel Select action figures always come with a beautiful display base. And it looks like Mr. Freeze comes with some sort of like alleyway, which looks great. On the back, we have Wrath of the Villains, Mr. Freeze, deluxe action figure with diorama base. Beautiful shot of the figure up close. And then we have a nice meaty bio here discussing Mr. Freeze as how he relates to the Gotham live action series. If you want to read it, just go ahead and check it out. It's a lot. I mean, it's one of those things too. I always say this all the time. I wish, action figure boxes had a bio on the character. And for me, this is great. They're giving us a nice, thick, meaty bio, talking about Mr. Freeze. And just check this out. Other figures in this line, there was Hugo Strange, Azrael, and it looks like if you got the Azrael figure also, you could combine the bases. So you could build this full-on alleyway, which also features like a fire escape or a balcony, which is really, really cool. I'm looking forward to checking out the display base, because if this is to scale with the Mcfarland stuff, that's awesome for like, putting on your shelf, or if you're into action figure photography. This figure came out some years ago. So the Gotham series, for some reason, it seems like it was yesterday, but this figure came out way back in 2017. So you're looking at an action figure that's 5 years old. And let's get crack in and take this guy out. Alright, first off, we have the beautiful display base. And this looks like something that would fit in perfectly with the Mcfarland stuff. Man, look at that. That's awesome. It's even cool because you have the... Let me see if I get this into focus. You have the Wayne Enterprises logo on that cardboard box in front of the trash can, which is really cool. These lids don't come off, but man, this looks great. And then you also get the wall for the alleyway. And of course, you have the, the ha ha ha. It's kind of like, the Joker. What's an alleyway without some sort of reference to the Joker in like graffiti form? And you just simply plug this in, and it snaps in pretty easily. And I think it disassembles pretty easily as well if you want to take it apart. And if you'll notice, towards the top of the edge, this is where you attach the Azrael base. And now I need to hunt down the Azrael figure. So there's that. And then here's a small little catalog. You always find these like in the Diamond Select toys, whether it's the Marvel Select or just the straight up Diamond stuff. They always give you a small catalog or brochure highlighting some of the other products they make and other figures in the line. Let's take a look at this. So these are figures from Gotham, the now defunct Fox television series. These were sculpted by Art Asylum. I think they were absorbed into Diamond Select. If you're a longtime toy collector, you'll remember Art Asylum. They tackled Star Trek way back when. I think their big project was, it was way back when they did Enterprise for Diamond. And if you remember the show with Captain Archer and the NX-01. So here's series 1 of their Gotham figures. They made Selina Kyle, younger Catwoman. There's a younger Detective Jim Gordon. There's a younger Penguin. And likewise here you can assemble, it looks like the same bases but just repainted differently. So you can combine the bases to form the alleyway again. Season 2, you have Alfred, Harvey Bullock, Edward Nygma, aka the Riddler, Barbara Keene, a young Bruce Wayne, and then a Victor Zsasz. So this is awesome. So essentially, like I said, for now, I want to see if the Gotham line of figures scale well with the Mcfarland stuff, because I kind of feel like I have a few holes in my collection in terms of characters. Like I mentioned earlier, I'd like to have a Mcfarland Mr. Freeze, but there isn't one yet. So I'm hoping this could be a placeholder. And if this scales well, I might reach in and grab some of these other figures in the future, because I do need like a Alfred. I'd like to have an Alfred figure and a younger Bruce. I think those are kind of a necessity. And also a Zsasz. I mean, this is someone I don't think we'd see an action figure of anytime soon. He's not as as toyetic as some of the other villains in Batman's Rogue Gallery. So there's this. And let's take out the action figure. Okay, so we have Mr. Freeze here. Looks fantastic. Lots of accessories. So you have his 2 different versions of his freeze ray. There's the larger rifle, the smaller one, and then there's additional canisters at the top. I'm not sure if these are removable. We'll find out. Alright, so for now, I'm just going to only remove one of his weapons. Just take out the smaller freeze gun. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to find out if this guy scales well with Mcfarland figures, because that's pretty much the reason why I got him. So let's take out a ruler and see what this guy measures in at. The box describes these guys as being 7 inches, so it's a 7-inch scale action figure, but if you've been collecting toys long enough, you'll know that every company has a different, definition when it comes to scale. So let's see. He stands in at, a little over 7 inches. Alright, so here is the test. We're going to see how well he scales next to a Mcfarland figure. Now, Mcfarland figures, even though they're like a 7-inch scale action figure, they're not consistent across the board. For example, the Damien Robin, it's the proportions of that figure are kind of like more extreme and exaggerated, almost cartoon-like, versus, some of the other characters who might look a little bit more realistic. Now, what we have here is the Mcfarland designed Batman. This guy comes in at about, not including the horns, 7.5. If you include the horns, almost 8. So already he's taller, but I mean, it all comes down to the proportions. If the proportions are realistic enough, you could kind of like slide this guy onto the same shelf, and just attribute his his height to just him being a little bit shorter than Batman. If you wanted to. All right, so let's see how well they compare to one another. And I think it's reasonable, if you ask me. I think you could easily blend in the Diamond Select stuff with your Mcfarland figures. I think all the figures are going to fall slightly shorter than the Mcfarland stuff, but in terms of the figures, like proportion when it comes to anatomy, I think it's kind of on the same scale. I think what helps this guy also is that he has such a large head. So I think that's what kind of helps. But even in terms of the design aesthetic, it still seems proportionate. The detailing and the proportions of the the body armor and the figure's anatomy, it seems well in line with the Mcfarland stuff, even though the Mcfarland figure is slightly larger. So yeah, I mean, personally, I'd feel comfortable, mixing this guy in with the Mcfarland stuff. If you're a real stickler about scale, that might bother you, but I think it's passable. In terms of the detail, in terms of the height. Until you get an official DC Multiverse Mr. Freeze from Mcfarland, I think this is a good fill-in or proxy. Okay, so let's take a look at Mr. Freeze, Victor Freeze, as he's also called. Wonderful detailing on the face. Great likeness to the actor. And like I mentioned, one of the big differences between this Mr. Freeze and the other versions of Mr. Freeze, like in the cartoon or the comic book, is that he does not have that bubble dome. He does wear a helmet, but that's in a costume he wears prior to this one. This costume's a lot more high-tech than the costume he's wearing when we're first introduced to the character in the TV series. So he kind of has a paler flesh tone with the red lenses on his goggles, much like Mr. Freeze. Again, another difference is that this Mr. Freeze has hair, whereas, most iterations of Freeze, he's bald. That doesn't really seem to bother me. Wonderful detailing and sculpting. Art Asylum, they're at the top, when it comes to, like, sculpting action figures. They've been in the game for a very, very long time. I think mid-90s, possibly. And their work is always outstanding. Wonderful detail on the body armor, beautiful texture on the bodysuit. In terms of his articulation, his head rotates. He looks down, doesn't really look up. His arms rotate. They go out. No bicep cut, but he does have elbow swivel, elbow bend. It's only a single pinned elbow, so the articulation's kind of limited. You know, if you're spoiled by some of the other figures and other toy lines, this might disappoint you. For me, it's passable. I'm cool with it. Wrist articulation, and his wrist also folds in. Cut mid-torso right there, so he can swivel. And there is no waist swivel. You know, I think this is strictly it, which for me, it works considering what the bodysuit looks like. His legs kick out. They kick outward. And this articulation scheme is kind of reminiscent of like the Mattel DC Classics figures in terms of the way it kicks out. Double pinned knees. And then there's ankle articulation, zero toe articulation. Let's get one of his freeze guns in hand. And it looks, yeah, this guy looks awesome. I'm pretty stoked to have him. All right, let's do a real quick, let's bring out Batman again, real quick. So I'm doing a final comparison. So, like I said, for me, it's passable. I think it really depends on, you know, your preference and how bad you need a Mr. Freeze. I think the one thing, like I said, the one thing I think that this figure has going for it is that his head is gigantic. So it really does make it feel like he's in scale with the Mcfarland stuff. You know, you could just argue and say this is a shorter character, you know, if that makes any sense. And then he has this really cool display base, which is friggin' awesome. This is the second version of the display base. As you've seen it in the catalog, Series 1 had the same display base, but different colored brick wall. This one has the graffiti. And then there's a socket and a peg on the base. It's a very sizable base too, so. And let's see. And there we have this awesome looking display base and figure. Looks great. Now, I really wanted to get the Azrael base, or at least one of the figures from Series 1, just to complete the upper half with the balcony. Because as cool as I think this is, it just kind of bothers me that it's a little short. You know, it'd be nice if the base came up to above his head. But, you know, beggars can't be choosers. I think it's just cool just to get this as an accessory to begin with. That looks friggin' badass. And let's take a look at the base with the Mcfarland Batman. See how well that looks. And surprisingly, the socket on Batman's foot fits the peg. So, nice, happy coincidence right there. And the figure's kind of heavy. It just fell off. But this will give you an idea of what a Mcfarland figure looks like on the base. Yeah, tell me that's not awesome. That's friggin' cool. Look at that. So it's like a double bonus. You know, you get a really cool action figure and you get a really awesome display base, you know, to go with it. All right, so even though this figure is, you know, 5 years old, you know, this came out back in 2017. I think it could flow well with the Mcfarland stuff, in my opinion. But that's just me. That's, you know, how I kind of view things. If I was to rate this on a scale of 1 to 10, for me, visually, it's a perfect 10. You know, this captures the likeness of the actor and the character seen in the old Fox drama. I love the brick wall. It's a great display piece. You know, it adds a little bit of spice to your display shelf. And visually, I think it's amazing. The only shortcomings with the action figure is, for one, you know, if you're looking for something that to scale perfectly with the Mcfarland stuff, it falls short, you know, literally. Another point against it is the articulation. You know, the articulation here is kind of dated and limited as opposed to like a modern action figure. But I think, you know, visually it makes up for that. You know, especially if you're a collector who's not big on posing. If you just want a cool looking action figure to stand next to Batman or the Joker, this is it. Alright, so let's wrap this video up. Once again, my name is Lou. If you are new to my channel, welcome. If you are a returning viewer, subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support. I greatly appreciate it. So, until the next video, be safe, take care of yourself, buy lots of toys, and most importantly, be happy. And I'll see you at the next one. Alright, later.